Welcome to Lessons Learned, a content series from the Quality Improvement Center on engaging children and youth in finding permanency. I'm your host, Kyle Ferreira. In this series, we share real-time learning and insights from the work of the project thus far. Lessons Learned number 8 highlights the importance of fostering intergenerational professional relationships within the child welfare workforce with Shaquita Ogletree.
Hi, I'm Shaquita Ogletree, Director of Federal Policy at Youth Villages, and a member of the National Youth Engagement Advisory Council for the QICEY.
Child welfare today involves professionals from 4 distinct generations: baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z, all working together. These intergenerational bonds are essential for empowering younger professionals, particularly those with lived expertise. When leadership champions mutual respect, open dialogue, and inclusion, it strengthens the entire workforce and drives meaningful systems change. Now that sounds good, but how do we actually do better here? To start, I asked Shaquita why she believes intergenerational relationship building is so important, particularly in child welfare. Here's what she had to say.
Intergenerational relationship building is critical in child welfare today more than ever. We are dealing with families and young people who are coming to our system with very complex needs, and we need innovation. And innovation really starts with having really new child welfare workers come into this space to provide updated and insightful ways to provide services and supports. We need to ensure that we have cultural dynamics from different generations, whether that be from the Gen Zers or the millennials. So it's important that the senior leaderships that are in child welfare really allow for these voices to have a seat at the table, because it's very critical for our system and our sector to grow and be very innovative to meet the community needs of families that we are seeing today.
Shaquita emphasizes that by integrating ideas from all generations, we create opportunities for innovation and authentic engagement. For child welfare professionals, this means being able to serve children, youth, and families better by leveraging diverse perspectives. Navigating intergenerational relationships isn't without its challenges, though. Communication styles, workforce norm, and expectations for what's possible can vary widely across generations. Here's what Shaquita had to say on how communication preferences, for example, can either hinder or strengthen these relationships.
I think in any sector, communication preference can make or break the working relationships, particularly for sectors like child welfare that are having newer professionals come into the workforce with very different experiences. So we have to open up the communication styles to meet the needs of this workforce. And in order to do that, we have to ensure that we have the proper tools for workers to do their jobs. And so I think about being able to communicate through text messaging, and workers having access to that is really important. Workers are no longer working 9 to 5, they're working weekend hours. And so being able to communicate with families and young people at the drop of a dime is really important, because crises don't happen 9 to 5, they happen around the clock. So in order for this system to really grow, we have to be able to incorporate communication style that meets 24/7 needs. If we're not aware of how our families and young people are using these social media dynamics, we will not be able to serve them, because we were missing a really critical piece of communicating with them.
Leaders can bridge these gaps by setting clear communication standards while remaining flexible. Encouraging younger professionals to teach digital tools to their more seasoned colleagues can also foster mutual respect and collaboration. Now, workforce culture and norms also play a pivotal role in fostering intergenerational relationships. Shaquita shared how inclusive leadership can set the tone for collaboration.
Leadership is very critical for how this system is able to make or break workforce dynamics, particularly for the intergenerational workforces. I know for a fact that The reason why I've been able to stay in the field for so long and to grow in my leadership ability is because I had strong visionary leaders that really cared about the incoming professionals. They cared about the work, they cared about families. And when you care not just about the day to day, but you care about your workforce, I truly believe that you have stronger organizations that really meet the needs, not just the families they're serving, but also of their workers, their staffers, and they have really high retention rates. This generation that's coming to the workforce, I know they want things to turn over really quickly, but I really think that when you have an organization that has just strong work ethics, strong trainings, and just really is about meeting the needs of one family at a time, you tend to have better outcomes and safety for your workers. When you have workers that have open door policies and you have staff that can come to them when they're having their own crises. I love the analogy of, put on your mask first before you put someone else's mask on. And I think that this sector could really benefit from that around. You can't serve families if you're yourself not healthy and whole and feeling like you are doing impactful work. When there's no power struggles in organizations, you have the younger generations feeling very accepted in the workforce. They feel accepted to their organizations, that they can come there and they can grow, they can learn, and they can be themselves. And I think that when you have leaders that show that they also failed and that, it's okay to fail, but it's about how you react to it. I think this next generation can really learn from that. So workforce culture and norm is really pivotal to ensure not just a inclusive environment, but it's critical to address safety and well-being for the workforce.
Defining workplace norms and expectations is so crucial. When everyone understands the rules of engagement, it minimizes unnecessary tension and creates a culture where professionals feel valued, regardless of age or experience. One of the most compelling aspects of this lesson is how intergenerational relationships can support professionals with lived expertise. Listen to Shaquita highlight why this is so especially critical.
I know for a fact that the work that I've done over the last decade or more has allowed me to be inspired by young professionals with lived experience to have purpose and passion. And I think oftentimes we hear about child welfare workers or professionals getting jaded by the system. But when you're working alongside someone who has lived this, they experienced it, and you can work professionally with them, you're oftentimes reminded of why you're doing this work. And I think that can be sometimes selfish, but I think it's important that we are keeping our hands on a pulse of really the experiences that we're having. And at the same time, I think that it's important for organizations and agencies to truly take a deep understanding and perspective of how to embed the importance of supporting professional lived experience into the workforce. And I think that goes beyond just, having access to a leader. It goes beyond just, again, them working in positions that are about supporting other families and youth with lived experiences, but it really about how to support them professionally. It's important that we also foster intergenerational relationships with these professionals in a way that is very supportive of their expertise and their vision for what they want their future to be in the field. I think it's a disservice if we don't build a professional who has a seat at the table and have the voice of leadership because they bring so much value to the organization. They bring value to individuals within the organizations, and they are highly critical of us building and focusing on intergenerational relationship building.
This requires intentional effort from leadership to create an environment where lived experts can thrive alongside their colleagues. When done well, it benefits not only the workforce, but also the children and families we serve. Finally, I asked Shaquita about the differing expectations for change between generations. Here's what she had to say.
I remember when I worked at an organization and collaborating with other agencies, the key ingredient for really everyone having equal seat at the table was that we all had to understand each agency's culture and their purpose. I think the same thing we have to apply to intergenerational relationships because millennials, Gen Zers, and the next generations who are coming behind them, who are coming in and they're not only wanting to work in a sector that they are passionate about, bring their educational expertise, bring their lived expertise, but they're also like, we can do better tomorrow. We can change the way we serve families. We can change the way we show up to work. Having all of these different voices and dynamics is very critical of really everyone setting a baseline of like what is everyone's expectations, what is everyone's goals, and what are the collaboration desires that we should be focusing on. And so that's why it's important that when we're doing trainings we have a foundation so that new workers, existing workers can truly understand what the mission and purpose is of an agency and organization. And then we also have to have continuing education and continuing training and feedback. I can't stress how important feedback from organization is needed because it allows for the organization to take a mirror of like how they're perceived and make changes. We have to make sure that we're maximizing different perspectives, but at the end of the day, staying grounded in while we all come to this work with a perspective of respect and understanding.
This balance is so essential for building trust and maintaining morale. Leaders should create space for younger professionals to voice their ideas while helping them understand the nuances of systematic change. Now, before we finished, Shaquita had one last thing to tell the young professionals out there.
As once a young professional myself, the way that I approach the work that I did was really finding your safe space or your individuals who you feel comfortable to share your thoughts and feedback with. And beyond just mentors, but you have to find people within your organizations that really will go to bat for you. I think it's important that you feel comfortable enough to share your feedback and your expertise on the things that you see, the things that you want to change, the things that you think are important to really meet the needs of the organization, your other coworkers, the families and youth that organizations serve, and honestly to meet the needs of the leadership. Leadership also needs your feedback as well. We never know what can be changed if we don't ask and we don't share.
Thank you so much for that, Shaquita, and thank you so much for being here. Intergenerational relationships in the child welfare workforce are about more than just getting along. They're about fostering innovation, creating inclusive environments, and ultimately elevating the work we do for children and youth. As leaders, it's our responsibility to lean into these relationships, to model respect, encourage open dialogue, and include professionals of all ages and experiences. Let's commit to breaking down these stereotypes and assumptions so we can build a workforce that truly reflects the diversity of the communities we serve. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the QICEY podcast. To learn more about this lesson and others, visit www.qic-ey.org. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode where we will dive into lessons learned number 9, focusing on power dynamics in the workplace. Until next time, let's continue working together to create meaningful change for children, youth, and families. The QICEY is 100% funded by the Administration for Children and Families of the United States Department of Health and Human Services.